So, why am I wearing a sun hat and a winter scarf? Well, this is to do with swimming. I still hate swimming to this day, mainly because of experiences when I was a kid. And although it was summer when we went swimming to an outdoor pool for lessons, it always felt freezing and I needed some warm clothing. Swimming, as far as I'm concerned, is wet and cold. And this is a little bit from a book I wrote called Junior Mixed about my memories of swimming. We walked into the swimming pool. There were the familiar drafty changing huts, as uninviting as last year. We split off, girls to the left, boys to the right, and went inside. Now the boys' changing room was just one big space with wooden benches built all around. There were hooks above. I chose a space in the corner. The walls were just bare wood, and there was no ceiling, just rafters, cobwebs, and the underside of the pitched roof. The floor was damp from the group that had been in before us, and the whole place smelled of disinfectant. There was much noise and excitement. Some of the boys were already wearing their swimming costumes under their school trousers. Now these were the boys who were shy about showing their willies, and they got changed. It wasn't a good idea though, because they always got their towels pinched when we'd finished, making it harder for them to cover up. It was much simpler just to get on with it and be quick. After only a few minutes, Mr. Graves was pounding on the door. "Any boy not out of there in 1 minute will be in trouble with me when we get back," he shouted. I headed for the exit. There was the dreaded footbath. It was too wide to avoid, and it was always bone-chillingly cold. I hovered on the edge, but Kevin shoved me from behind and I staggered forward. "Ah, you horrible git, I wasn't ready!" I shot through, lifting my knees high and splashing the cold water up my legs, and I emerged into the open on the other side. Most of the girls were already out, looking ridiculous in rubber bathing caps, some of which were covered in little rubber flowers. They all had to wear hats because of their long hair, which blocked the pool filter, we were told. So we all lined up on the poolside, arms crossed over our chests, hugging ourselves for warmth. It took several minutes for everyone to be assembled. Mr. Graves, in his warm jacket and hat, stood glaring at us, daring us not to speak, whilst the instructor walked from the other side of the pool. "Hello, my name is Mr. Sadler. Many of you, I'm sure, will remember me from last year. And they will know how to behave and what is expected of you. But just in case there are any newcomers, we will go through the rules, which are there for your personal safety and for the safety of others. Now, can anyone remember the number 1 rule?" Stephen raised a hand. "No running, sir." "Precisely. We do not run. Running is a no-no in my lessons. Even in an emergency, we do not run. Even if an elephant broke the fence down, we would not run. What would we do?" There were bemused faces. Silence. "We would walk away quickly. We would not panic. Is that clear, boys and girls? Running equals lack of self-control. Lack of self-control equals lack of discipline. And lack of discipline equals disaster. Isn't that so?"
"Yes, Mr. Sadler."
This speech went on for some time. It was obviously one he'd made many times before, and he often smiled in appreciation of his own little jokes. By the time he'd got to his final point, I was dithering with cold. My teeth were chattering, my knees were knocking, and at last were divided into groups. I didn't have to listen too hard. I knew where I would be. Sure enough, I was soon at the shallow end with Colin Bleak, Pamela Cox, and one or two others in the hopeless group. I slid gingerly over the edge, hating the feeling of the water creeping up my legs. Finally, I dropped in and gasped at the shock. Oh! I felt as if I was still trying to breathe in when there was no room for any more air. It was a bit like suffocating in reverse. First, we had to practice our floats. These were the star float and the mushroom float. I knew how to do them in principle, but it seemed an odd choice of activity for us kids who were scared of swimming, as it involved being face down in the water. Or drowning, as I preferred to think of it. I took huge gulps of air and plunged forward. I was willing to try, but always managed somehow to get water up the nose or down my lungs, and this always resulted in a sudden panic, followed by me shooting up out of the water coughing, choking or gagging. After 3 or 4 attempts I'd had enough and made my way to the very corner of the pool. By ducking down with my chin at water level and hugging the wall, I could keep out of the instructor's eye line and avoid any further activity until the whistle went, signalling time to get out. I clambered up the steps and felt my trunks sag lower and the cold air chilling my skin. I couldn't wait to get my towel around me and feel some warmth. Why did anybody do this for pleasure? Well, you'll have to read the story if you want to find out how I did eventually learn to swim and what happened next. Anyway, thanks again. Bye bye.